In 1590, an English sea captain returned to the shores of what is now North Carolina, expecting to find the colony he had helped build 3 years earlier. What he found was silence. 117 men, women, and children gone. No bodies, no wreckage, no explanation. Only a single word, carved into a wooden post at the entrance of an empty fort. Croatoan. It is the oldest unsolved mystery in American history. To understand what happened at Roanoke Island, we must first travel back to England, 1584. Queen Elizabeth I sat on the throne of a kingdom hungry for power, hungry for wealth, and hungry for land. Spain had already grown rich beyond imagination from the Americas. Conquistadors had sent back mountains of silver and gold. England watched and envied. Enter Sir Walter Raleigh, courtier, adventurer, one of the Queen's most favored men. In 1584, Raleigh received a royal charter to claim territory in North America. He dispatched 2 scouts, Philip Amadas and Arthur Barlow, who sailed south along the Atlantic coast and returned with extraordinary reports. A lush, fertile land, friendly peoples, a paradise waiting to be claimed. They brought back 2 men from a tribe called the Croatoan, Manteo and Wanchese. Their arrival in London caused a sensation. England was captivated. Raleigh named the new territory Virginia, in honor of his queen, the Virgin Queen, Elizabeth herself. The dream of an English empire in America had been born. In 1585, the first colonists arrived, around 100 men, soldiers mostly, under the command of Ralph Lane. They settled on Roanoke Island, a narrow strip of land along the outer banks of what is now North Carolina. But the promised paradise quickly revealed its thorns. The colonists were military men, not farmers. They relied almost entirely on the local Algonquian tribes for food. Relations soured fast. Lane grew paranoid of the powerful local chief, Wingina, convinced the chief was plotting against them. In May of 1586, Lane struck first. He launched a raid and killed Wingina, severing the colony's most vital source of supply. When Sir Francis Drake arrived with a fleet of ships that same summer, the colonists made their decision quickly. They abandoned Roanoke and sailed home to England. The first attempt had ended in failure, but Raleigh had not given up. This time, Raleigh promised, things would be different. Not soldiers, families. Men, women, children. People with something to build, something to protect. A real colony. In 1587, 117 colonists set sail under the leadership of John White, an artist, a map maker, a man who had been to Roanoke before and believed in its potential. Among the colonists was his own daughter, Eleanor Dare, who was pregnant with her first child. The original plan was to settle in the Chesapeake Bay region, further north. But the Portuguese captain who had brought them across the Atlantic refused to sail any further. He turned his ships around and left. The colonists were stranded, once again, on Roanoke Island. Despite the hardship, life continued. On August 18, 1587, just weeks after arrival, Eleanor Dare gave birth to a baby girl. The child was named Virginia Dare. She was the first English child born in the Americas. But the colony was struggling. Supplies were running out. Tensions with neighboring tribes were already rising. The colonists agreed. Someone had to go back to England for help. That someone was John White, Virginia's grandfather. 9 days after his granddaughter was born, White boarded a ship and sailed for England. He held his daughter and his newborn granddaughter one last time. He did not know it would be the last time. Back in England, John White found a nation at war. The Spanish Armada, the greatest naval fleet ever assembled, was bearing down on England. Queen Elizabeth had commandeered every available ship. No vessel could be spared for a supply run to the colonies. White begged. He appealed to Raleigh. He appealed to the crown. He fought for passage for 3 years. 3 years. Finally, in 1590, he secured a spot on a privateering expedition heading to the Americas. It was not ideal. The ship would stop at Roanoke only briefly. but it was his only chance. White arrived at Roanoke Island on August 18, 1590. It was Virginia Dare's third birthday. He called out into the darkness. He fired signal guns. He sang familiar English songs into the tree line, hoping to draw out anyone who might be hiding. Nothing. The fort was empty. The buildings had been carefully dismantled. Not destroyed, dismantled, as if packed up deliberately. There were no bodies. No signs of violence. No signs of plague. Only that word, Croatoan, carved deep into a wooden post at the entrance to the fort. And nearby, on a tree, the letters C, R, O. White remembered the agreement he had made before he left. If the colonists moved, they would carve their destination. If they were in danger, they would carve a cross above it. There was no cross. White believed they had gone to Croatoan Island, present-day Hatteras Island, about 50 miles to the south, the homeland of Manteo's people. He ordered the ships south. A storm blew in. The captain refused to risk the vessels. They turned back toward England. John White never returned to America. He never found his daughter. He never met his granddaughter again. He died, we believe, sometime around 1593, still searching for answers that never came. Croatoan. 4 centuries later, that carved word still generates debate. What did it mean? Was it a destination? A cry for help? A warning? The Croatoan were not enemies of the English. Manteo, who had traveled to London, met the Queen and returned to his people, was a bridge between worlds. If any tribe might have offered the colonists refuge, it was his. Some researchers read the word as exactly what it appears to be, a direction. The colonists walked south, alive, organized, on their own terms, and sought shelter with the Croatoan people. Others are less certain. The word could be a warning, a last message, the final legible record of a community unraveling in the dark. We cannot know with certainty what they meant. We only know what they left behind. Over 400 years, historians, archaeologists, and researchers have proposed competing explanations. Assimilation. The most hopeful theory, and arguably the most supported. Facing starvation and abandonment, the colonists chose to integrate with local tribes. They learned new languages, they intermarried. Their descendants carried English blood into indigenous communities for generations. Later explorers reported encountering indigenous people in the region with European features, gray eyes, fair hair, who spoke of ancestors who talked from books. The Lumbee people of North Carolina, a tribe of contested origin, have long claimed ancestral ties to the lost colonists. DNA studies have been inconclusive, but they have not ruled it out. Massacre. A darker possibility. The colonists may have been killed by hostile tribes, by starvation-driven conflict, or possibly by Spanish forces who had tracked the English settlement as a strategic threat. Spanish intelligence records show they knew exactly where the colony was. Dispersal by drought. Tree ring analysis from the late 1580s reveals one of the worst droughts in 5 centuries in that region. Crops would have failed. Water would have vanished. Smaller bands of colonists may have scattered among multiple tribes, absorbed gradually, leaving no coherent community to record what happened. Disease. The introduction of European illnesses devastated indigenous populations across the Americas. If sickness swept through the area, through both the colonists and their potential hosts, entire communities could have been wiped out within months. Each theory carries evidence. None carries proof. Modern archaeology has brought us closer, but not close enough. Excavations at a site known as Site X in Bertie County, North Carolina, discovered through close re-examination of a John White map, have uncovered 16th century European artifacts buried within a Native American settlement. A copper farthing, lead shot, fragments of armor. Exactly where some historians believe a group of colonists may have relocated. A 2017 dig on Roanoke Island itself uncovered evidence of colonial-era occupation beneath a later indigenous layer, suggesting that at some point, English and Algonquian peoples shared that same ground. But without written records, without identifiable remains, without names, certainty stays just out of reach. The forest has kept its secret for more than 400 years. 117 people, men, women, children, and one 3-year-old girl who had never known any world but this one, walked into the American wilderness in 1587 and vanished. They left behind no graves, no journals, no final letters, only a word carved into wood that has outlasted every one of them. Roanoke is more than a cold case. It is the beginning of the American story, built on ambition, shaped by desperation, and haunted by the things we will never fully know. Subscribe to Legacy Vault for more forgotten stories, hidden history, and unsolved mysteries. We'll see you in the next one.